What's going on, everyone? So Anthony Davis is an absolute force on the defensive side of the basketball. I mean, he has been one of, if not the best defensive players for years now. I mean, even before he was a Laker, he was up there in every metric. And it shocks me that this man has not won a Defensive Player of the Year award. And I know some people make the argument of like, oh, well, you know, he hasn't played the games or he misses this, that, and the other. Like, no, because Triple J won it last year. Anthony Davis was literally the best defensive player in the league by it. Pick a metric. You could throw a dart at a dartboard with every possible statistic defensively, and Anthony Davis led in every single one of those. Anthony Davis was a freak of nature on the defensive end last year. The Lakers were number one defensively with basically just Anthony Davis and Jared Vanderbilt defensively, and he got absolutely snubbed. And for those that are like, oh, well, you know, it's the games he played. Well, Triple J only played like 4 more games than Anthony Davis. So, again, those 4 games were that much more impact. No, Anthony Davis could have registered no defensive stats, and he still would have been better than Triple J. Like, that's how good he was last year. And we even saw throughout this preseason him just be a monster, and I mean a monster on the defensive side. Against the Phoenix Suns, he had 5 blocks in 9 minutes. Let that sink in for a second. 5 blocks in 9 minutes. If he would have played 30 minutes or 35 minutes like he usually plays, he would have gotten like 15 blocks. He ended up finishing the night at 6, which is absolutely ridiculous. The dude could have gotten a triple-double just in block shots, which is just mind-blowing. But it's not even just the blocks, right? Like, the blocks are fun. The blocks are the highlight plays, right? You know, nothing's better than seeing a guy just get absolutely stuffed at the rim and Anthony Davis sending that into the bleachers or whatever. Like, those are always like the fun, enjoyable type of moments. But it's also his ability to defend. I mean, even point guards at times. Like, Anthony Davis can defend the big man, but he also is quick enough, agile enough, and has enough lateral movement to where he can stay in front of and just disrupt basically anybody on the court. Now, obviously, you wouldn't want to put him on like a Steph Curry or like a Ja Morant for the entirety of a game, but again, in a possession, on a switch, right? Like, you see him just lock dudes up. I mean, even in the playoffs against like Steph, he had some big stops, some big moments, some big plays on the defensive side. His ability and his length and his size and also, again, his speed to get out from being basically under the basket to out on the perimeter and disrupt the shot, whether he blocks the shot or he just disrupts it and now the player's got to second guess it or change course to get that shot up. I mean, it's amazing how disruptive he can be. And, you know, to have, I mean, he is so impactful defensively. The Lakers last year were like one of the worst defensive teams in the league when he's not on the court to literally like middle of the pack with just him. Just him. Now, and I'm not talking about like with Jared Vanderbilt stuff like that. I'm speaking on like where the Lakers were throughout the course of the season, right? We got the new roster towards the tail end of it. And then even then, they weren't the same when Anthony Davis was off the court. But like the Lakers basically had no defensive help. And Anthony Davis by himself is good enough to put you basically a top 15 defense by himself. Like, if the Defensive Player of the Year award is supposed to go to the best defensive player of the year, then there is zero reason Anthony Davis should not have a Defensive Player of the Year award. Now, before you go and run to go take and bet on Anthony Davis to win Defensive Player of the Year, because I absolutely want to. Like, I want to bet on Anthony Davis to win Defensive Player of the Year so badly. Like seriously. I would love to hammer it because I think, one, the Lakers are going to be number 1 or at least top 3 defensively. Anthony Davis is going to be that defensive anchor. I think the Lakers are going to be, a top 3 seed in the Western Conference. And so that'll put him in a position to win that. But the reason I'm very hesitant to take that bet is because I don't think he'll play 65 games. Again, the argument of, Anthony Davis doesn't play enough games or whatever to deserve the Defensive Player of the Year award, every year up to this year, that argument makes zero sense. Because again, go back and look at all the Defensive Players of the Year. Most of them have all played games, the same amount of games, very similar. Some have played, a couple more, a handful of games more, whatever. But again, like the gap between Anthony Davis and those other players is so massive that it doesn't matter. Right? Like, I mean, he could miss 10 fewer games and he still would deserve it. But now that argument of him not playing enough games is a valid argument. It is officially an argument that makes a lot of sense because you have to play 65 games to meet and be eligible for all the requirements that go into any accolades. Right? Like, I also think Anthony Davis has the potential to be in the argument for MVP. If the Lakers are the number 1 seed, Anthony Davis plays the way we've seen him play this preseason, which he has been an absolute monster. If we see that Anthony Davis throughout the course of the season, and the Lakers are very good, which I believe that they will be, then I could see the argument of Anthony Davis at least being in the discussion, at least being in the conversation for not only Defensive Player of the Year, but MVP. I just continually fall back to, is he going to play 65 games? Right? Well, he looks a lot more agile. He looks a lot healthier. Like, Anthony Davis looked very good in preseason, right? I mean, he was high flying. He was sacrificing his body. He's trying to catch a body like the other night. Like, everything you could ask for from Anthony Davis was absolutely doing. But it's just like, the history of him. And again, I'm somebody that has defended Anthony Davis tremendously when it comes to just injuries and stuff, right? Like I just find it so funny that so many people label Anthony Davis street clothes, but he's played more games since he's been a Laker than like half the stars in the league. Like, seriously, which is ridiculous in and of itself. And yet he's the only one that's labeled as street clothes, which doesn't make any sense. And it's not like he's playing 20 games. He's not Zion, right? Like, he plays enough games for Lakers to be good. But it's that 65 game threshold. Again, I could see Anthony Davis playing, 55, maybe even 60 games. 60 games would be fantastic, right? If he could play 60 games, that would be ridiculous, right? Like, that'd be great for his standards. And the days of guys playing 82 games just is non-existent in today. Like, there are some guys that play, 80, even some role guys will play like 82 games, stuff like that. Like, somebody that comes to mind, like DeMar DeRozan, he plays, like, you can basically lock him in for like 79 to 80 games a year. Like, the guy is a model of just like health and being available on the basketball court. But even if Anthony Davis is that, and let's say he plays 60 games, I like, that's not 65, right? Even if he plays 63 games, that's not 65. Like, he has to play minimum 65 games, which means he could miss 17 games, which is not impossible. I mean, look, the bubble year, he was a model of health. And so if he can be that again this year, which I look at the Lakers roster, I see the depth, I see that they're probably not going to need Anthony Davis to play super heavy minutes, right? Like, to me, there's no reason on a regular basis AD should be playing more than like 30, 32 minutes a game. I don't see the need for it. Now, obviously, if there's that game where, it's a tight game late, Anthony Davis is at 29 minutes, but there's 5 minutes left, you're not going to be like, well, you got one more minute, so, and then we're going to put, like, I don't necessarily think that or need that or want that. But I do think that most nights, Anthony Davis should be enough to where you should be able to manage him to only play 30-plus minutes, right? You have Jackson Hayes. He looked great. He looked solid. He looked like he's going to be a real contributor this season for the Lakers. Christian Wood, you could slide over to the 5. You could even go small if you needed to with like LeBron or Rui at the 5. We've seen some of those looks, and that's been actually pretty effective. And most teams in today's NBA play a version of small ball to where Rui can, fill that gap and play that spot. And he is excellent defending just bigger guys. So I even think defensively you could kind of get away with it in certain matchups, right? Like you don't want him having to defend like Jokic or Embiid or anything like that. But I do think, if you have a matchup, if you're playing like the Warriors or something, like you could get away with a little extra time with like Rui at the 5, right? But in general, if we can keep AD's minutes modest and down, and AD can kind of just, play average around 30 minutes a game, which would be great. Lakers can be one of the top teams in the league, and everything kind of just is in order, then I can absolutely see Anthony Davis being in that discussion for MVP and Defense Player of the Year. Again, I want to bet on it so bad. Like, I really do. Because, like, the odds for both are, like, great. But I don't think he plays. Like, I don't even know if the Lakers would let him play 65 games. Right? Like, unless the Lakers really need him to. Right? Like, I don't know if the Lakers are going to want to push him. Like, he's going to get nights off just to get nights off. Right? Like, he's probably not playing back-to-backs. And the Lakers have the most back-to-backs in the league. Right? So, like, if he misses one of the games of the back-to-backs, they have, like, I think 4 or 5 back-to-backs. So there's 5 games right there that he's probably all but guaranteed to miss. And that's not even counting any, like, knick-knack injuries or anything like that run over the course of the season that the Lakers are going to be, cautious with and take precautions and rest him throughout the course of the season. So it's just, I feel like you're a little bit behind on the 8 ball in that regard, but I don't know. Anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think AD is going to have a shot at the Defense Player of the Year? Do you think that the Lakers are going to be pretty good this year? Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below.